This girl can see people's future. But on this day, when she saw Tianchong, a high school scholar at the age of 17, but she realized that his body was glowing without a clear future. The girl went home and told her mother. Her mother was worried and said, "Don't tell anyone that you can see the future, otherwise it will be a curse on your life." That night, the girl went to the mountain to dig for ginseng. She saw Tianchong hunting with a group of young men. The girl was afraid that they would destroy the ginseng field, so she hid under a rock and blew out a bunch of fireflies. The glow in the wild mountains scared all the other gentlemen away. Only Tianchong and Chai Rinkui, the young master of the Sai family, were left. Tianchong drew his bow and shot an arrow. The girl rushed to hide. Seeing the fireflies scattering, Tianchong ran over, but she slipped and fell down the cliff. Chai Rinkui came to her rescue, but in the middle of the pool he suddenly became jealous, so he lied and called for help, leaving Tianchong to struggle on her own. The girl saw it all. She even saw Chai Rinkui's thoughts. The moment Tianchong was about to fall, the girl pulled him back. That's how they met. The girl's name is Xiulian. They got closer and closer every day. Chai Rinkui saw it all. He also admired Xiulian's beauty but was rejected. Jealousy drove him crazy. He dug up the charms Xiulian's mother had written for her family's puya. He buried it in front of the government and accused Xiulian's mother of cursing the government. At that time, Kim Bing-woon, a judge from the Ministry of Revenue from the capital, happened to be at the government office. He tortured the woman without a word. Xiulian rushed forward to plead for mercy. She said that her mother had written the spell because she predicted the death of her grandfather. To protect the Choi family for generations to come, Lord Kim said your mother could predict the death of others. Then he had his men put a knife to the woman's neck. He asked her to predict her own death. Xiulian stood up and said, "My mother won't die today. It's you who will die. The time of her death will be tonight at midnight." Seeing that she was so sure of herself, Lord Jin was interested. He said, "If you're right, he'll let you both go." The magistrate's office strengthened the guards. They waited until midnight, but there was still no sign of her. Lord Jin said to Xiulian, "When am I going to die?" At that moment, Xiulian suddenly stood up. Then the magistrate was hit by an arrow. Xiulian jumped on Lord Kim and saved his life. Lord Kim asked what happened. Xiulian said that your face and the magistrate's face were both covered with evil spirits. It was only after I came that the evil aura disappeared from his face. I saved your life. But Lord Jin didn't keep his promise. He took Xiulian back to the capital. Xiulian's mother found her way to the king. It turns out Xiulian was born to a woman in Jianghua County before the king took over the throne. But the woman was a witch and her status was low. The king had no contact with her since he took over the throne. The king is now powerless to help. The Kim family is very powerful in the court. Zhao Dofei, the late king's wife, was in control of the harem. He could only compromise and restore Xiulian's status, but she had to be placed in the Kim family's care. The Jin family threatened the life of Xiulian's mother. They asked Xiulian to help them choose and appoint someone. Anyone who can threaten the Jin family in the future will be excluded from the court. At this moment in Jianghua County, Tianchong is still waiting for Xiulian. He's been waiting for 5 years. Tianchong's father, Cui Jing, has become the magistrate of Ganghua. On this day, Kim Bing-woon came to Jianghua County again with Xiulian. He said that His Highness would marry Xiulian to Tianchong. He wants the ship to leave for the capital a few days later. First, Xiulian's marriage should be settled. This immediately alerted Cui Jing. The ship is carrying taxes from all over the world. A day's delay is a day's risk. That's true. Kim Bing-woon is here because of the shipment, and Cui Jing is a thorn in his side. In addition to taxes, there is also a huge sum of money that has been seized. The Kim family has gotten the money through various channels. The king is waiting for the money to reach the capital, and then use it as a reason to suppress the Jin family. Cui Jing knew what was at stake, so he refused Kim Bing-woon's offer. The ship will sail on time. Kim Bing-woon is not moving, because Kim Zogan, the head of the Kim family in the capital, has already predicted that things won't be so easy. He's forcing the king to grant the marriage. Kim Bing-woon has nothing to do. He invited a group of physiognomists to read the faces of the people here. He was shocked by the reading. He saw that the man across from him was handsome, so he asked him his birth date. The man only remembered the first 6 characters. The physiognomist wrote them down on a piece of paper. When he made the last stroke, the fortune teller concluded that the man's destiny was extraordinary. The man's destiny is like a black dragon rising from the ground into the sky. He will be famous in the future, and the man's future wife is nearby. She is also a person of high status. At that moment, a Taoist priest with a hat interrupted the face reading and said it was wrong. Soldiers came to drive the Taoist priest away. The Taoist priest took off his hat. It turned out that he was an old friend of the man's father, whom he hadn't seen for 10 years. He was known as the Taoist master of Shan Shui. The fortune teller was shocked to hear this name. He immediately got up and said that Taoist Shan Shui had accurately predicted the ascension of Emperor Xianfeng of the Qing dynasty, so he was known as the world's best physiognomist. The Taoist took a look at the man's birth certificate. He tore it off. and said to the man, "You are indeed the Black Dragon, but the difference between a dragon and a python is just a thought. You will soon experience a major setback, and you will also miss your marriage destiny." Tianchong said in defiance, "My life is not up to you." But after the banquet, Cui Jing asked his son to go with Taoist Shan Shui for a few years. Tianchong was reluctant. He graduated from the scholarship at the age of 17. He's been with his father all this time, and has never been an official. Now he was angry that he had to take refuge with the Taoist. The Taoist told him that your marriage will betray you, your father will die in vain, and you will die young. But if you come with me, all this may be avoided. Tianchong said, "How can it be a marriage if it will betray me? If I go with you, I'll live. Then my fate can be changed at will. If it can be changed, what is there to be afraid of?" The Taoist priest said that you should fight with your destiny. This is also your fate. When Tianchong returned to his place, he received a letter from Xiulian asking for a meeting. He immediately recognized Xiulian, whom he hadn't seen in 5 years. Although he had many questions, Xiulian said she'd explain later. Right now, there are more important things. Xiulian can sense things in the future. She has a feeling that dozens of people will be killed or injured in the near future. She hoped Tianchong would look into it. The next day, the imperial decree for the marriage arrived. Tianchong and Xiulian were to be married, and told Cui Jing to take care of it. Kim Bing-woon, standing on the stage, again proposed to postpone the departure of the ship. Cui Jing knows Kim Bing-woon is after the ship, but the decree has been issued. He couldn't refuse and had to postpone the sailing. Tianchong has tightened the control of the ship for his father. Kim Bing-woon couldn't get close. A more sinister plan came to his mind. He had explosives planted in the warehouses at the pier. The whole dock is under the control of the county government. When Kim Bing-woon's men returned the key to the warehouse, Tianchong saw him. Following this line, Tianchong found the warehouse full of explosives close to the shipping vessel. While Tianchong was wondering about the purpose of the explosives, a man drew a bow and shot an arrow. The soldiers around him immediately went after the assassin. Soon the assassin was surrounded. Before Tianchong could interrogate him, the assassin smiled wryly and killed himself. Tianchong felt something was wrong. It's true that while they were chasing the assassin, Kim Bing-woon had already stolen the ship. He replaced the millions of taels seized on the ship with explosives. After intense preparations, the wedding finally arrived as scheduled. The ship set sail on the same day. The two of them kneeled down and worshipped each other, and then they drank to each other. But suddenly there was an explosion in the distance. It's the ferry. Cui Jing immediately summoned soldiers to the ferry. Kim Bing-woon smiled slightly. Xiulian looked at Kim Bing-woon and knew it was him. This is the big event she sensed that killed and injured dozens of people. But in the end, it couldn't be avoided. Cui Jing was so upset, and the million taels had been secretly sent to the Kim family in the capital city. Within a few days, Cui Jing was imprisoned by Kim Bing-woon for transporting explosives to the capital in an attempt to commit treason. Tianchong went to Kim Bing-woon to discuss the matter. He was also imprisoned. Chai Ringkui, who was always jealous of Tianchong, finally got his chance. He approached Kim Bing-woon and wanted to join the Kim family. Kim Bing-woon asked why I should use you. Chai Ringkui said he heard that the court would send Xin Xuan Jun to investigate the canal boat incident. Xin Xuan Jun is not a member of the Kim family. As long as Cui Jing is alive, the truth will come out, and I'm willing to share your worries. Kim Bing-woon smiled and said, "Let's see how useful you are." At night, Xiulian and Chua Butler set up a plan to rescue Tianchong from the prison. Xiulian told Tianchong that she would testify for his father in front of Xin Xuan Jun. The explosives were planted by Kim Bing-woon. The next day, Xin Xuan Jun came from the capital. Seeing Cui Jing dying from torture, he recalled the king's instructions to him, and Cui Jing in the canal boat incident. These are the companions who fought together to overthrow the Jin family. At night, Xin Xuan Jun, Kim Bing-woon and Xiulian are discussing the case. Tianchong suddenly rushed in to defend his father. He said the explosives belonged to the Kim family. Then he turned his attention to Xiulian. He said Xiulian could testify, but Xiulian suddenly changed his story and said that Cui Jing brought the explosives on board. Kim Bing-woon immediately ordered his men to take down Tianchong. Tianchong tried his best to escape. A few days later, Xin Xuan Jun decided to take Cui Jing to the capital for retrial. The people cried out for his honor. Suddenly, someone attacked the soldiers. Then they secretly pulled Cui Jing out of the prison wagon and put him aside. Tianchong ran to take his father away. Chai Ringkui also appeared suddenly. As a companion since we grew up together, Tianchong thought Chai Ringkui was here to help him. But Chai Ringkui stabbed Cui Jing to death. Tianchong was stunned. He picked up his father and fled. His father told him to hide and not to take revenge. After this incident, Kim Bing-woon returned to Beijing with Xiulian. Xiulian felt sorry for Tianchong, but there was nothing she could do. Kim Bing-woon took her mother's hairpin and threatened to frame Cui Jing. She can't do anything about it. Tianchong watched Xiulian's sedan chair from the shadows and was furious, but there was nothing he could do. The Shanshui Taoists smuggled him out of the city in an ox cart, just as his father had arranged. Tianchong began his training with the Taoist priest. He spent 3 years there. After 3 years, Tan Chong left the mountain and came to the capital. He wanted to start his revenge. This woman asked when she would have a husband. The Taoist priest took out a talisman and said it could change her marriage, but it cost $100. At that moment, Tan Chong appeared at the door and said the woman's water luck is very strong. She must have met a man who is related to water. The woman suddenly remembered that the waterman often came to talk to her. Tan Chong said, he's your destiny. Don't be fooled by this Taoist priest. The Taoist is furious that his business has been taken away. Tan Chong said, I'll do the same for you. Then he figured out that the Taoist was a sailor on a military ship. Hearing this, the Taoist priest quickly told his birth date and 8 characters. Asked Tan Chong to calculate his fortune. Tan Chong said, you should be careful of water this year, especially this month. The Taoist was not convinced, but it soon came true. A few days later, Kim Zogan's concubine sacrificed to the Dragon King by the river. First, she threw rice into the river, then she threw a bunch of coins into the river. When the Taoist priest saw it, he thought it was worth it, so he went down to the river despite his men's resistance. He was going to sneak in and take the money, but he didn't realize that he drowned just before he got the money. Finally, he was fished out and beaten up by the soldiers. Tan Chong rushed out and said, people are still starving to death, but you're throwing rice and coins into the river. Aren't you afraid of God's wrath? At once, the surrounding crowd was furious. The soldiers had to stop and let the Taoist priest go. From then on, Tan Chong became famous. Soon his hotel was crowded with fortune tellers, even the royal family. Xin Xuanjun had met Tan Chong at the casino a few days ago. He could tell right away that Xin Xuanjun was a tiger and a wolf. His nose was high and his eyes were bright. He's after the whole kingdom. Xin Xuanjun told him his fortune sign and said he was asking about his fortune. Tan Chong took one look at his fortune and said it was too mean. He said, it's not your fortune teller at all. He asked why he did it. Xin Xuanjun immediately changed his face and said, soon someone will come to you to ask about my fortune telling results. You have to tell them properly. Then Xin Xuanjun left. Since returning from Jianghua County 3 years ago, Xin Xuanjun has become a drunkard and not a politician, because the court is too dangerous. In the harem, the king suddenly fainted. Zhao Dafei ordered his officers not to spread the news or he would be beheaded. But within half a day, Lord Kim Zogan got the news. He immediately sent Xiu Lian to check on the king's condition. Perhaps he still had some feelings for the king's father. When Xiu Lian reported back to the Kims, she said, she can only tell if he's alive or dead in a few days. She couldn't predict when the king would die. Kim Zogan said, it's not much longer. Please help me find the next king. I will reward you for your help. Xiu Lian said, your family has held the court for so long. This may be a chance to bring down the Kim family. Through her ability to see the future of others, Xiu Lian began to search the royal family, but he couldn't find a single boy who could become a king. Suddenly there's an argument outside. Xiu Lian walks out. A young delivery girl bows to her. The moment she looked up, Xiu Lian saw the sparkle in her eyes. She was the future ruler of Joseon. Xiu Lian immediately sent someone to find out about the girl. The girl occasionally works in a brothel. Xiu Lian came to the brothel disguised as a prostitute. She didn't find the girl, but ran into Tan Chong. She saw Tan Chong suffering in the future. Tan Chong also saw her, but he remembers what his master said. The closer he got to this woman, the faster he would die. So Tan Chong told the woman to take care of herself and left. The next day, a brother and sister found Tan Chong. The brother hadn't passed the imperial examination for 10 years and said he was unlucky. They wanted to know if they could win this time. Tan Chong read the 8 signs and said, bad luck. You send your sister to a brothel to pay for your own education. My sister asked, how did you know I was in a brothel? Tan Chong said, although the clothes are worn out, her hair smells like whorehouse powder. He must have poured wine in the brothel last night and just changed his clothes. Tan Chong returned the money and didn't give it to them. At night, my friend asked him why he didn't do the math for the siblings. Tan Chong said a man's fortune is like a candle in the wind. Numerology is a very weak life. But he survived for 10 years. That means his family's luck was always there for him. But he continued to do what he wanted to do and didn't study hard. He didn't even care about his family. At that moment, Xiu Lian, who was searching for the emperor's talent in a brothel, happened to see an evil aura emanating from the man's sister's face. It was an omen of death. She asked the girl what had happened to her recently. The girl said, no, something good is going to happen. My brother sold me to a big family for money. He bribed the Jin family. They promised him a high school diploma. Xiu Lian told the girl to run away. The girl refused. She said she'd be ransomed after her brother won the scholarship. The next day, the man came to see Tan Chong again. He said that he would be successful this time. Don't you believe me? Tan Chong said you won't win, and advised him to take care of the family for the sake of your sister. The man was furious and said he'd come back to him if he won. A few days later, the man came with a sickle. He said he didn't win because of Tan Chong. Tan Chong said you've used up all the luck of your closest relatives. You will have bad luck for the next 20 years. The man tried to kill Tan Chong, but Tan Chong overpowered him. The man stumbled away. He went to the brothel and made a scene, taking his sister with him. Xiu Lian found out and ran to the man's house. Both her sister and mother were hit by soot. Xiu Lian tried to drag her sister out. The man locked the door. Then he strangled Xiu Lian. At that moment, Tan Chong kicked the man away and saved Xiu Lian. Although they are incompatible, but their destinies are always intertwined. After sending Xiu Lian away, my friend took Tan Chong to buy medicine. At the drugstore, He also saw the girl who was going to take control of North Korea. The moment he saw the girl, he froze, not because she was beautiful, but because she had the face of an emperor. As the capital's best fortune teller, he saw the girl's future. He left her money, so that she could improve her situation. My friend was puzzled and asked why. Tan Chong said the girl's face was good. It is true that in the near future, this poorly fed girl will become Empress Mai Yongzheng, who will influence the entire history of Joseon. For now, she just needs to wait for the new king to be crowned. At this time, the king is very sick in the palace. He was ready to give up his throne. With no heir, the lack of an heir has made all the powers in the kingdom eager to take over. Zhao Dafei's chosen successor is Li Xiaochuan of the Qing Yuan army. He's a man with a sharp tongue who doesn't know how to hold back. Outside the palace gates, he saw a servant of the Jin family disrespecting a member of the royal family. He went up to him and slapped him and ordered him to apologize. It was a great relief, but it showed the Jin family his ambition. Xin Xuanjun advised him to keep a low profile, but Li Xiaochuan didn't care. At night, Li Xiaochuan paid thousands of dollars to have his fortune told by a fortune teller. For the first round of auditions, he showed the late king's birth date and 8 characters for the fortune tellers to read. How could the uninformed fortune tellers guess that this was the emperor's destiny? After the first round, there were only 2 left. One is the former professor of the observatory. The other is Tan Chong. As a court physiognomist, the professor had contact with the birthdates of the royal family. He recognized it as the late king's. Tan Chong relies on his mastery of the science of econometrics. Then the second round of fortune tellers were given the 8 characters. The master on the stage said that this time, it's not the fate of the fortune teller himself, it's the fortune of his son. The professor is still using his own method of association, judging from the age of his son. It's similar to a certain lord on the stage. He guessed that it was his birth date, so he followed this line and said a lot of good things. But in fact, it's Li Xiaoquan's father's birth date. After the professor finished, Li Xiaochuan held the cup and signaled his men to get rid of the professor. Next is Tan Chong. He said the son of this fortune teller will have a short life. Li Xiaochuan was shocked. At this time, the palace was conducting the same numerology test. Zhao Dafei brought Xiulian, who can see the future. He gave Li Xiaochuan a personal object. When Xiulian picked it up, it was as if she could see Li Xiaoquan's future. The result was also short-lived. Zhao Dafei was in a state of panic. She treats Li Xiaochuan as her own son. She's doing her best to push him to the top. Tan Chong here said, his son is married to a good wife, but has no children. This is exactly Li Xiaoquan's situation. Tan Chong continues, his son has the destiny to become a dragon, but now he's in danger. The way to solve this problem is to hide his power and stay away from politics. This is not possible for Li Xiaochuan. He came to the capital to fight for the next throne. He promised Tan Chong $1,000, but Tan Chong said he didn't want the gold, because recently, the Kim family is demolishing the orphanage to build a warm house. He asked Jia Yongwen to get a decree from the king to save the orphanage, but the Kims didn't care about the decree and kept on demolishing the orphanage. Tan Chong and the Kim family's fighters were fighting. Suddenly, a flying dagger was fired, followed by a smothering blow. Tan Chong turned his head to Chai Rinkui. He's become a dog of the Kim family. He's been searching for Tan Chong to kill him. He didn't expect to run into him here. He wants to take Tan Chong back to the court. At that moment, Xiulian arrived. Xiulian is dying to save Tan Chong. Seeing the woman she loves trying to save another man, Chai Rinkui knocked Xiulian out and sent her back to the Jin family. Then he put Tan Chong in the prison and tortured him. He forced him to write a confession of Li Xiaoquan's rebellion. At this time, Xiulian also had a showdown with Kim Bing-woon. If Tan Chong dies, she will no longer predict Inyeon's future for the Kim family, and cursed the future generations of the Kim family to be thieves. Seeing Xiulian's eyes change color, Kim Bing-woon was scared. He immediately replaced Chai Rinkui. He knew that in Chai Rinkui's hands, Tan Chong would die. The Kim family didn't take Tan Chong's confession seriously, because he's just a physiognomist. His confession had no weight. The Jin family had already planned their attack on Li Xiaochuan. They invited Xin Xuanjun to the Hongmen banquet. Then they said that Xin Xuanjun's eldest son had made a treacherous statement in a brothel. Xin Xuanjun laughed and tried to defend himself, but Kim Zogan had a servant present the pear blossom that Xin Xuanjun's eldest son had painted on the whore's dress. The pear blossom symbolizes the royal family. Xin Xuanjun immediately fell to his knees and begged Lord Kim Zogan to spare his life. Then the Kim family made a deal. Xin Xuanjun would report Li Xiaochuan for treason. Kim Zogan pointed to the wine glass and said drink it, and Li Xiaochuan would die. If you don't drink it, you die. Xin Xuanjun lifted the glass and drank it tremblingly. At that moment, Tan Chong suddenly said he wanted to write a confession. It turns out that Xiulian and Kim Zogan's concubine, Rog, have made a deal. Kim Zogan is getting old. Rog also needs to think about her future. She invited the wife of the head of the criminal investigation department to hold a gruel festival for the prisoners the next next day. Early the next morning, the subordinate took Tan Chong's confession to Chai Ringkui. Chai Ringkui was overjoyed. At that moment, someone reported that they wanted to hold a Kani program. Mr. Criminal Judge needs to deploy prison guards. Chai Ringkui agreed without thinking about it. Xiao Lian arranged for Tan Chong to be rescued from prison. Except for Chai Ringkui, who was furious. The Jin family didn't take this matter seriously, because the next day, the Jin family invited the royal relatives to hold a big banquet. They wanted Qin Xuanjun to accuse Li Xiaochuan of plotting against them and take this opportunity to get rid of Li Xiaochuan. Qin Xuanjun was in a dilemma. At that moment, Tan Chong arrived. He said there was the next emperor in the room. All of them stood up to see who the strongest physiognomist in the capital had predicted to be the next king. Li Xiaochuan was even more eager. He thinks he's the next king. Now he needs this fortune teller to give him a boost. The fortune teller looked around. Then he went straight to an unassuming boy. Then he knelt down in front of the boy and said, "You will be the next king." Li Xiaochuan was confused. Qin Xuanjun was so scared he couldn't stand up. It's not that he doesn't want the throne. It's that he thinks it's too early. A clan like Li Xiaochuan, who had men in his harem and soldiers in his field, was almost killed by the Kim family? How could a man like him, who had no one and no money, dare to stand in front of the stage? The next day, a terrified Hoyung Xianjun immediately took his children to apologize to Kim Zogan. He said it was just a misunderstanding. Kim Zogan compared him to a rat. Qin Xuanjun got down on his knees and begged for forgiveness, saying he had no knowledge of the incident. Then his son got down on his knees and kept begging for forgiveness. Kim Zogan looks on with contempt. Qin Xuanjun's eyes turned red as he looked at his son. When he got home, Qin Xuanjun still couldn't get over it. 10 years ago, he burned down a temple and moved his ancestral tomb to Coconut Mountain in order to have an emperor in his family. In the past 10 years, he's worked hard to protect himself from the wind in order to save himself and wait for a chance. But he was pushed out by Tan Chong, the fortune teller. The more he thought about it, the more angry he became. But the story had already spread. Tan Chong was summoned by the king. The king asked him why he was trying to confuse people. Tan Chong said that the Jin family had taken over the power. "I'm helping the king to take back the Li throne." The king smiled and pardoned Tan Chong. Then Tan Chong was summoned by Li Xiaochuan. Li Xiaochuan asked him how he looked like an emperor. "Who is the emperor?" Tan Chong said the one who survives can become the king. Then he reassured Li Xiaochuan that you can use the child as a shield. That way, you can avoid the Jin family's sharp edges. Li Xiaochuan nodded slightly. There's one more thing about Tan Chong. He wrote a confession in prison. Now he's also a fortune teller at the top of the hierarchy. The weight of that confession is not the same. Li Xiaochuan immediately arranged for his men to grab the confession. At that moment, Chai Ringkui from the Jin family was on his way to the Jin family with the confession. He was furious when he was robbed in the middle of the road, but he was even more devastated. He wanted to detain Xiaolian temporarily to lure Tan Chong to rescue him and then destroy him, but he didn't expect Xiaolian to escape on his own. Xiaolian came to Tan Chong's place. Tan Chong's friend said he just left. Xiaolian asked where he went. The friend took out a note from Qin Xuanjun asking for a meeting. Xiaolian immediately saw what Qin Xuanjun had in mind. When he wrote the note, she knew something was wrong. She rushed to the place where they met. Qin Xuanjun asked Tan Chong why he was doing this. Tan Chong said, "You have the face of a tiger and a wolf. The king's days are numbered. You'll surely rebel against him." But Qin Xuanjun raised his gun. He thought Tan Chong was lying to him. Just then Xiaolian arrived. Qin Xuanjun opened fire. Xiaolian slid down the cliff. Qin Xuanjun also fell to the ground. Both of them went down the mountain to look for Xiaolian, but they couldn't find him. News of Xiaolian's disappearance soon reached Zhao Dafei. The Jin family kidnapped Chai Ringkui to confess. Qin Xuanjun was a bit weak. He wanted to ask Li Xiaochuan for help to talk to Zhao Dafei, but before he could say anything, Li Xiaochuan spoke up first. He said Xiaolian was fostered by the Jin family and this happened. This is an opportunity to strike a blow at the Jin family. He should talk to the king directly. At this moment, the Jin family, Zhao Dafei and Tan Chong are all looking for Xiaolian. Li Xiaochuan went to the king to inform him of Xiaolian's disappearance. He wanted the king to punish the Jin family. Li Xiaochuan was not the one the king wanted to succeed him. The king didn't agree right away. Instead, he asked him to look for Xiaolian. If he found him, he would be promoted to president of the reform department. Soon there was news about Xiaolian. It turns out Xiaolian's mother comes to the capital every year to look for her daughter. This time, there was an accident. She saved her daughter from the cliff. Zhao Dafei's men found Xiaolian first. They took her to the palace for a few days to recuperate. Xiaolian said Qin Xuanjun did it. The king immediately arrested Qin Xuanjun. He asked him if he killed Tan Chong and Xiaolian to show his loyalty to the Jin family. Qin Xuanjun denied it, but the king said, who was kneeling in front of Kim Zogan the other day, Qin Xuanjun is at a loss for words. The king called Tan Chong into the hall. Tan Chong says it was an accident. Qin Xuanjun thought he was a spy for the Kim family and killed him. So Qin Xuanjun is not a member of the Kim family. At that moment, Qin Xuanjun's son came in to plead for leniency. In the end, The king only took away Xin Xuanzun's fiefdom and made him repent, and Li Xiaochuan became the president of the Li Jingjing office. But this would bring him real trouble. He asked Tianchong how his luck was this year. Tianchong said that although you are very talented, you must live in hiding, but it is clear that he cannot do this. Tianchong said if he didn't hide himself, he'd be in trouble. Li Xiaochuan says he's just been promoted to CEO. Isn't this a training program for me? The fortune teller says you're having a bad year. Things that seem like good opportunities often lead to disaster. How can Li Xiaochuan believe that? He is the most powerful royal family. The next day, at the meeting of the Su Jingsai, Li Xiaochuan showed no mercy to Kim Zogan. Once again, he showed the Kim family his ambition. The Kim family had to make a move, but I didn't expect the magistrate of Zhenwai County to find Xin Xuanjun. He reported Kim Bing-woon for forcing him to give up 100,000 taels. Xin Xuanjun asked how could you dare to report the Kim family's power. The magistrate said the people were starving to death and he couldn't afford it. But Kim Bing-woon said if I didn't confess, he'd label me a traitor. Xin Xuanjun was skeptical. The magistrate also said that he knew about Kim Bing-woon's secret storehouse. This convinced the Haiyan Xian army. With this evidence, he can make the Kim family suffer. He immediately went to Li Xiaochuan. Li Xiaochuan is very happy. It's an opportunity you can't miss. The two of them immediately presented the account book to the king. The king nodded his head and called a meeting for the night. Xin Xuanjun reported the matter. This is characterized as embezzlement of tax money. The king asked who did it. Xin Xuanjun hesitated. Tianchong told him not to confront the Jin family, but when he thought of the shame the Jin family had brought upon him, Xin Xuanjun couldn't bear to miss this opportunity. He spoke the words, Kim Bing-woon, heavily. Kim Bing-woon and Kim Zogan are shocked. Xin Xuanjun begs the king to punish him severely. Kim Bing-woon says it's a false accusation, but there is an account book. His Majesty asked if you can disprove the evidence. Kim Bing-woon said it came out of nowhere and he wasn't prepared. The inspectors are also clamoring for punishment. It seems the time has come. The king ordered Kim Bing-woon to be taken to the prison. Then the soldiers raided the secret storehouse. At the same time, the officials recorded in the account books were also arrested. Li Xiaochuan was in a good mood at this time. Xiu Lian was found by Rog, Kim Zogan's concubine. Kim Zogan was old. Kim Bing-woon is in jail again. Rog was anxious to know which side to take, but Xiu Lian said she didn't see any disaster in Kim Bing-woon. The next day in the courtroom, the prosecutors were screaming for Kim Bing-woon to be punished. The king asked Kim Bing-woon's father, Kim Zogan, for his opinion. Kim Zogan said there was nothing I could say. Then Kim Bing-woon's younger brother, Kim Bing-hak, said that Kim Bing-woon was an adopted son and had committed such a serious crime, and asked His Majesty to punish him severely. The king was surprised by his attitude. He said, do all the ministers have the same opinion? At this time, Kim Bing-hak added that in order to warn the officials, the king should try the case in person. The king will try Kim Bing-woon in person in 3 days. Kim Bing-woon also wrote a letter in the prison to express his loyalty to the king. He hopes that the king will find out the truth and clear his name. Upon hearing the content of the petition, Li Xiaochuan thought it was Kim Bing-woon's last struggle. He laughed out loud with joy. At that moment, Xin Xuanjun was in a state of turmoil. The Kim family had no time to worry about Tianchong and Xiu Lian. The relationship between the two is rapidly heating up. Xiu Lian told Tianchong that the Kim family is now at peace. According to Kim Zogan's concubine Rog, Kim Zogan has either given up on Kim Bing-woon or has other plans. In order to find out the truth, Tianchong found the magistrate who first reported him. He could tell at a glance that he was a rat. A rat may be smart, but he doesn't have the sense of justice to expose sycophants. He is more motivated by his own interests. In addition, the magistrate's ears drooped backward, the face of a liar. Knowing this, Tianchong went back. Xin Xuanjun had been waiting for him for a long time. Xin Xuanjun was puzzled because everything was going too well. The Kim family has been in power for 60 years. How could they not fight back? Tianchong said if we cooperate now, if we work together now, we must have no doubts and move forward and backward together. I will help the Xin Xuanjun family to take the throne. Xin Xuanjun picked up the wine cup and drank it all. We agreed that Tianchong would send us the final information at 5 o'clock tomorrow. The next morning, Tianchong went to see Kim Bing-woon in prison. Kim Bing-woon shook his fan and said he had nothing to fear. Tianchong went to the magistrate's house again. He searched through all the boxes for evidence. He found a fan just like Kim Bing-woon's, and a letter from the Kim family. On the letter were some numbers. Tianchong and the magistrate had a showdown. The magistrate was a coward and confessed. At that moment, Kim's men came to take the magistrate away. Tianchong chased him out, and he was gone. His friend sent Xiu Lian a letter. Chai Rinkui of the Jin family was looking for Xiu Lian last night. Xiu Lian grabbed him. She immediately saw a vision. Chai Rinkui wanted to arrest Li Jie-du's family the next day. Li Jie-du is Li Xiaoquan's man. They want him to accuse Li Xiaochuan of treason. The Tang trial will begin soon. Xin Xuanjun is still waiting for information from Tianchong. Tianchong rushed to the palace gates. The Jin family is prepared. Chai Rinkui stopped Tianchong. Then they closed the palace gates. The trial will begin. Kim Bing-woon had Li Jie-du brought in. Then he said that Li Xiaochuan and Li Jie-du were plotting a rebellion. The king was shocked. Kim Bing-woon went on to say that the magistrate who reported him was not the magistrate himself. It was a distant relative of Li Xiaochuan who posed as him. Li Xiaochuan panicked. Kim Bing-woon said that he had gotten confessions from Li Jae-do, Kim Soon-seok, and the fake magistrate. At that moment, Li Jae-do also confessed that Li Xiaochuan had asked him to collaborate with Kim Soon-shin in the plot. Li Xiaochuan is in a panic. All the ministers are calling for Li Xiaoquan's death. The king had no choice but to imprison him. Kim Bing-woon was acquitted. Shin Xuan-jun went to see Li Xiaochuan in prison. They made a pact not to confess. With Zhao Dafei's help, they should be safe. On the second day of the trial, Li Xiaochuan was interrogated. The king asked him if he was guilty, but Li Xiaochuan confessed. Shin Xuan-jun was confused. It turns out Kim Bing-woon also went to see Li Xiaochuan last night. He told Li Xiaochuan to confess and go into exile. When the king dies, he can come back. The Kim family will put him on the throne, but he has to sign a document to be loyal to the Kim family. Li Xiaochuan asked if you can make a note at Zhao Dafei to guarantee my title. Kim Bing-woon said yes. They made a deal. In the courtroom, Kim Bing-woon argued that Shin Xuan-jun should be punished at the same time. The courtiers are also agreeing. Shin Xuan-jun is shaking. He's lost so much this time. Just then a voice came in. Everyone turned to look. It's Tan Chong, the capital's most famous physiognomist. He took out the paper and fan. He found his evidence and presented them to the king. The paper has the seal of the Jin family on it. The numbers on the paper and the words on the fan correspond. It's a fake account book, and a fake order to deceive Shin Xuan-jun. Tan Chong said that this was all a trap set up by the Kim family. Kim Zogan immediately came forward and said that even if there was a seal of the Kim family, it didn't mean that the Kim family did it. Tan Chong also said that even if it's not the Kim family, he said that even if it wasn't the Kims, it still proves that Shin Xuan-jun was deceived. What's his crime? In the end, the king saved Shin Xuan-jun's life. He ordered Li Xiaochuan to be exiled to Jeju Island, but Li Xiaochuan took poison and killed himself on the way. Shin Xuan-jun found Tan Chong. He kneeled down and apologized for killing him. He asked Tan Chong to help him help his son to become a king. Tan Chong agreed. He gave Shin Xuan-jun some advice. Zhao Dafei must be saddened by the loss of his son, Li Xiaochuan, and Shin Xuan-jun's son, Li Jae-ho, could fill the void. He told Li Jae-ho that the most touching thing in a person's heart is his heart. The next day, they took Li Jae-ho to visit Zhao Dafei. Li Jae-ho rushed up to comfort Zhao Dafei. Zhao Dafei looked at Li Jae-ho and remembered Li Xiaochuan. She held Li Jae-ho's hand tightly. She didn't even know when Shin Xuan-jun left. Seeing that his son was recognized by Zhao Dafei, Shin Xuan-jun immediately summoned all the royal families to support his son's succession. A few days later, Tan Chong and Shin Xuan-jun brought Li Jae-ho to Zhao Dafei again. They wanted to talk to her about succeeding the throne. Unexpectedly, they met the future Xiulian there. Before they could say anything, Zhao Dafei introduced them to someone. He said he was the son of the king's brother, Li Min. Shin Xuan-jun said, "Isn't the king's brother's son dead?" Zhao Dafei said the boy was brought by Lord Li Yonglu, and the fortune teller has predicted that Li Min will become king. Then he asked the magician to turn around. The moment he saw the fortune teller, Tan Chong was shocked. "Isn't this Song Juyi, who failed the imperial examination for 10 years and made trouble at the fortune-telling office half a year ago? How did he become a fortune teller?" Zhao Dafei looked at the same birthmark on Li Min's hand as Li Xiaochuan. She took Li Min as a substitute for Li Xiaochuan. She also told Shin Xuan-jun she'd push Li Min to the top. After they left, Zhao Dafei asked Xiulian if Li Min would become the king. Xiulian told her that Li Min was just an ordinary man, but the stubborn Zhao Dafei didn't believe in fate. They still insisted on pushing Li Min to the throne, but they don't know that Li Min is Kim Bing-woon's chosen successor. All this was planned by Kim Bing-woon, because the king has no heir. Zhao Dafei, the powerful wife of the late king, brought him Li Min, the heir apparent. He is the son of the king's brother. The king didn't believe he was his brother's son, but Li Min told him something only the king and his brother knew. This time the king also believed that he was his nephew. Zhao Dafei told the king that Li Min was found by a fortune teller. Then he asked the fortune teller to tell him how he found Li Min. The fortune teller, Song Juyi, replied that he came across him by chance. He saw that his birth chart was the king's birth chart, so he went to find Lord Li Yonglu. After investigating, he realized that he is the son of the royal family. This is the king given to the country by God. At that time, the capital's top magician Tan Chong came to see him. He told the king that Shin Xuan-jun's son Li Jae-ho is the next king. The king has seen what Tan Chong can do, and he's willing to trust him. Tan Chong said that the fate of the king is the fate of the country. If you can recognize the king, you can predict the fate of the country. The king said, then you can predict the fate of the country in the near future. Then Song Juyi said that His Majesty's good governance will lead to peace and prosperity. Just when the ministers and the king were happy for the good fortune of the country, Tan Chong said, "I'm terrified. I've been watching the sky at night, and I've noticed that the blue-green star is crossing the Tianqi Wall and violating the Ziwai Wall. This means that the king and the people will be in danger of a great epidemic. I ask you to prepare for it before it threatens the nation's foundation. The people are terrified." Zhao Dafei denounced Tan Chong's lies. Song Juyi also said that this is not a prediction, but a curse on His Majesty and the people. The king was at a loss for words. Shin Xuan-jun advised His Majesty to make preparations. Song Juyi immediately retorted, I'm willing to risk my life to make sure there's no epidemic, but if Tian Chong's prediction is wrong, he should be beheaded. Tian Chong was a bit flustered, but in the end he agreed. Song Juyi was secretly delighted. His prediction of the fate of the country is only a general direction. As long as nothing serious happens, he can win. But Tian Chong predicted a specific event. How could it be so coincidental? But what he didn't know was that Tian Chong was the capital's #1 physiognomist. After the court retired, Zhao Dafei asked the minister if the king had received any reports of epidemics recently. He said that no disease has been reported anywhere, but Zhao Dafei was still a bit confused, because he had seen what Tian Chong could do. Song Juyi reassured him that Tian Chong was only trying to delay Li Min's rise to power. At that moment, Xin Xuanjun also summoned Tian Chong. He asked him if he really saw the plague in the sky. Tian Chong said he went to the poor area not long ago. There is already an epidemic there, because they were all poor people. No one cares if they live or die, but if it continues, it will spread all over the country. That's why I presented it as a prophecy in the court. But Xin Xuanjun knew that predicting the fate of the country in the courtroom involved a dispute over the army. When there's no other choice, the ministers will ignore the epidemic. Soon, due to the layers of concealment, the epidemic spread through the capital's slums. The government quickly ran out of medicine. Luckily, Tian Chong was prepared and sent a shipment of emergency medicine. The epidemic got worse and worse. The medicine ran out again and again. Finally, the epidemic reached the king. In the court, Song Juyi blamed the epidemic on Tian Chong's curse. The king didn't want to hear these excuses. He asked the ministers how to control the plague. Kim Bing-woon said to round up the sick and leave them to fend for themselves. Don't waste the treasury's money. Xin Xuanjun tried to stop it, but the treasury was empty. The Kim family is very powerful. The king agreed half-heartedly. Soon officials came to clean up the temporary shelter for the sick. Tian Chong stepped forward to see the king. To his surprise, he was brought to Kim Bing-woon. Kim Bing-woon killed Song Juyi in front of him and offered the sick and Xiu Lian. He asked Tian Chong to support Li Min. This made Tian Chong confused. Isn't Li Min one of Zhao Dafei's men? The next day, the government started to demolish the shelter. At that moment, Tian Chong's friend came to tell everyone. He had bought a piece of land outside the capital to house everyone. Everyone moved here. As the weather got warmer, the epidemic subsided, but the shelter was not abolished. More and more poor people came here. At this time, Xin Xuanjun came to see Tian Chong. He asked him how to deal with Li Min. Li Min is now the only rival to Xin Xuanjun's son for the throne. Tian Chong could see at once that Xin Xuanjun wanted to kill Li Min. Tian Chong said no. Such a hard answer made Xin Xuanjun very uncomfortable. Tian Chong said Li Min is still a member of the royal family. If you kill him, even if your son ascends to the throne, he will be labeled as a murderer of his family. Since we are allies, please don't consider such tactics. Xin Xuanjun could only agree perfunctorily, because he still needs Tian Chong. But when he left the door, Xin Xuanjun immediately changed his face. He remembered how much Zhao Dafei loved Li Min. He had to kill Li Min. At night, he called his 4 dead soldiers and told them to move as quickly as possible. The next day, Tian Chong and Xiu Lian came to Li Min's place. Li Min's wrist was injured. This is the exact location of his birthmark. Tian Chong pretended to ask him where Song Juyi went. Li Min is obviously panicking, because Kim Bing-woon just threatened him with Song Juyi's relics yesterday. Tian Chong saw something. He's more than sure that Li Min is a puppet of the Kim family. The two of them came out of Li Min's residence to discuss how to expose him. Tian Chong suggested to start with his hand. Xiu Lian pretended to pour wine on Li Min's injured wrist. Then she pressed the man and said, "It hurts, doesn't it?" What I poured was actually glacial acetic acid. She pulled off Li Min's gauze and said that this is not a birthmark at all. It's to cover up the symbol of a slave. Everyone in the room was shocked. Li Min is their next king. It's unbelievable to have a slave as the king of the country. And the one who started all this was Kim Bing-woon, the eldest son of the Kim family. At this point, Kim Zogan can't sit still. If word of this gets out, Kim's family would be in danger of being wiped out. He asked Xiu Lian what his deal was. Xiu Lian said, "Let this man go and I'll leave the Kim family." Of course Kim Bing-woon won't do it. Xiu Lian has the ability to predict people's future, but Kim Zogan was afraid that if the truth was revealed, his family would be destroyed. He told Kim Bing-woon to let her go. After 10 years of being held captive by the Kim family, Xiu Lian is finally free. She returned to Tian Chong. The man Kim Bing-woon had arranged to impersonate the royal family was also set free. But there's something strange about the boatman wearing a hat at the ferry. Late at night, Xin Xuanjun came to see Zhao Dafei. He brought Zhao Dafei 2 gifts. Zhao Dafei opened a box. Inside was an arm. It belonged to the fake royal family. The boatman was sent by Xin Xuanjun. He killed the fake royal family. Xin Xuanjun opened another box with 100,000 taels of silver. He had a showdown with Zhao Dafei. Because of Zhao Dafei's woman's heart, the false kings took advantage of the situation. He asked Zhao Dafei to stand by his side and appoint his son as king. He will take back the Kim family's wealth for the royal family. He will pay back the shame that the Kim family has brought to the royal family. Zhao Dafei also realized that she could not bring down the Kim family by herself. The two of them agreed to work together. Outside the palace, Tian Chong hugged Xin Xuanjun's son and told him he was an emperor. Because of him, the people were able to overcome the epidemic. The people around him immediately chanted, "1,000 years of age." The public opinion was there. All that's left is to break up the Kim family. Tian Chong came to the Kim family. He said he wanted to read the fortune of Kim Zogan, the head of the Kim family. He told Kim Zogan, "Your 40 years in office have come to an end, and you've lost control of the court and the Kim family. At this rate, the Kim family will be silenced. Why don't you just give up your position as the head of the family?" Kim Zogan won't believe it. Tian Chong continues, "If you don't believe me, take a look at your eldest son, Kim Bing-woon. He is assassinating Shin Xuan-jun." Kim Zogan is thinking, the last time a slave impersonated a royal, Kim Bing-woon did it without his knowledge. When he found Kim Bing-woon, he knew right away that Kim Bing-woon was organizing the murder. Kim Zogan said it would be too easy for the court to be solved by murder. The real way to win is without bloodshed. Make sure you don't get involved first. Kim Bing-woon is not convinced. He thinks his father is too weak. His younger brother, Kim Bing-hak, also came forward to accuse Kim Bing-woon. Kim Bing-woon immediately exposed Kim Bing-hak's secret deal with Shin Xuan-jun to become the next patriarch. Kim Zogan fainted at the sight of his two sons. The king died a few days later. Zhao Dafei was the first to get the Jade Seal and immediately announced that he would choose the next emperor. At the bottom, Kim Zogan was furious. He had lost the family battle. Zhao Dafei asked his ministers to choose the next king they wanted. But who would dare? If the new king isn't the one he chose, he would be a thorn in the new king's side. The ministers have chosen to remain silent. The Kim family has no suitable candidate. Kim Bing-woon suggested that we should discuss it later, but Zhao Dafei immediately rejected it. At that moment, one of the ministers said that the country can't live without a king. He asked Zhao Dafei to make a decision as soon as possible. Zhao Dafei took advantage of the situation to announce Shin Xuan-jun's son, Li Jae-ho, as the next king. Before going to the palace, Shin Xuan-jun asked his son what was most important to a gentleman. The son thought for a moment and said filial piety. Shin Xuan-jun nodded his head in satisfaction. He had his son and Joseon in his hands. Li Jae-ho succeeded to the throne as the 26th king of the Joseon dynasty. Shin Xuan-jun was elevated to the title of Haiyongzian Taiyuan-jun. He became the first person in the history of Joseon to receive the title of Taiyuan-jun during his lifetime. The reign of the Hyungseon army is upon us. His first target was, of course, the Kim family, which had brought him shame. On this day, the Kim family held a banquet. Shin Xuan-jun showed up uninvited. Just after he sat down at the table, he ate a few bites and felt something was wrong. The guards came and shouted that someone was trying to kill Taiyuan-jun. More soldiers rushed in. Kim Zogan knew what was going on. It was Taiyuan-jun's revenge for the insults he had suffered in the past. He slowly knelt down. Taiyuan-jun had no intention of letting him go. The old man picked up the vomit on the floor and ate it in one gulp. He asked to return to his hometown for health reasons. Taiyuan-jun said he never wanted to hear anything about him again. The era of the Kim family's dominance in the court was over. Taiyuan-jun's time has come. In the courtroom, both Zhao Dafei, who is the head of the curtain, and the ministers of all the important departments, have to give him a wide berth. A few days later, he hosted a banquet for Tian Chong, who had helped him a lot in his rise to power. His real purpose was not to thank him. Rather, he wanted Tian Chong to disband the detention center. In just 1 year, the number of people in the colony has increased dramatically. There were poor people and missionaries. They see the shelter as a refuge. They saw Tian Chong as their savior. This is a threat to the suspicious Taiyuan-jun. But Tian Chong had bigger plans. He knew from the missionaries that the Qing dynasty had been overrun by the British. North Korea may not be far behind. He wanted the residency to be a melting pot, blending the knowledge and skills of all kinds of people to defend themselves against an impending foreign enemy. He then renamed it Mita Wateriba. He also began to study. A few days later, Taiyuan-jun came to find the shelter not only intact, but expanding. He entered Tian Chong's room. The table was full of foreign books and globs. Taiyuan-jun, who advocated a policy of locking up the country, was not happy about it. Looking at the closed window, Taiyuan-jun pushed it open. He could see the whole capital from here. He thought Tian Chong was plotting a rebellion, but Tian Chong was still optimistic about the situation, and carries out his plan methodically. Back at his residence, Taiyuan-jun had his men step up surveillance of the detention center. On this day, Li Daerun, the biggest merchant in Joseon, came to thank Tian Chong for saving his son from the plague. Taiyuan-jun's subordinates saw this scene. A few days later, Taiyuan-jun came to the detention center again. Outside the gate, he saw a steady stream of people arriving. He found the missionary and the musket the missionary had made. Taiyuan-jun thought it was time to act. In the evening, Taiyuan-jun invited Tian Chong to his house for a chat. Xiu Lian advised him not to go, because she saw that Tian Chong was about to be killed. Tian Chong thought he would have to face Taiyuan-jun sooner or later. He thought it would be a good opportunity to tell him his plan, so he decided to go. Taiyuan-jun told him to disband the shelter and continue fortune-telling. Tian Chong said that the purpose of the fortune-telling was to put the king on the throne. Now that his mission is accomplished, he won't tell fortunes anymore. Taiyuan-jun said Xiu Lian should be allowed to enter the palace. He's still a member of the royal family. Tian Chong still refused. As the most powerful man in Joseon, Tian Chong refused twice in a row. Taiyuan-jun was furious. On Tian Chong's way back, he ordered his men to kill Tian Chong. On the other hand, He sent his men to destroy the detention center. Xiulian was caught in a coma in the accident. Tianchong escaped the assassins and saw from afar that people in the shelter had been captured. The only person who could help him was businessman Li Darun. He found Li Darun. Li Darun received Xiulian's information in the afternoon and sent Tianchong away to prevent him from taking revenge. Tianchong was knocked out and put on a ship to a foreign country. 3 years later, an English merchant ship docked at the Joseon wharf. A few priests came down from it. Among them was Tianchong. He quickly gathered his former companions. He set up camp in an abandoned church. He came to bring down the Taiyuan Jun. At this time, the court was in the process of choosing a concubine for the king. The preliminary list was full of Zhao Dafei's people. Tai Yuanjun is not happy about it. He'll be the head of the harem if he's chosen this time. Tai Yuanjun asked for a new selection. Tianchong also saw this opportunity. He found Ziyin, the girl with the face of a king. He wants to put her in the position of queen. He told Ziyin what he wanted. He wanted her to be his mole in the palace. Ziyin didn't think she could be the queen, but she wanted to help Tianchong. The plan begins. The first step was to gain Tai Yuanjun's approval. Tai Yuanjun asked her if she was close to the king. Ziyin just smiled and nodded without answering, because someone had told her that Tai Yuanjun loved and hated smart people. The girl immediately understood the meaning of these words, so she didn't rush to answer. Tai Yuanjun then asked her why she didn't answer. Ziyin said she was too lowly to talk about the king's past. Even if she saw it, she had to pretend she didn't see it. That's what I've learned. Tai Yuanjun nodded in satisfaction. He is smart but has a sense of propriety. That's his favorite person. He pushed Ziyin to the final selection. Zhao Dafei asked the finalists what they'd been reading lately. The others were reading the 4 books and the 5 classics. Ziyin's answer was, ladies' rules. This is the most basic tutorial on latest etiquette. Her answer was even more satisfying to Tai Yuanjun, because what Tai Yuanjun needs is a daughter-in-law who knows etiquette, not a rival who understands politics. The suspicious Tai Yuanjun took the girl's birthday and asked the sorcerer to read it. The sorcerer's conclusion was that she would be a good wife and mother to her husband's family. But what he didn't know was that Tianchong had specially made up the girl's fortune. With this series of operations, Ziyin has successfully ascended to the throne of the queen. In the near future, she will become Tai Yuanjun's strongest rival. Behind the scenes, Tianchong has completed his first step in defeating Tai Yuanjun. Tianchong rescued Xiulian when she left the palace, but Xiulian lost her memory after the last accident. Xiulian's disappearance made Tai Yuanjun suspect that Tianchong might be back. He sent his men to look for Tianchong, and he's trying to be more strict with the new queen. He was afraid that the king would be bewitched by the queen. Tai Yuanjun found out that the queen had written a letter to the king. He criticized the queen for overstepping her bounds. The queen tried to explain but was reprimanded even more harshly. The queen could only bow her head and admit her mistake. Even when the king came to intercede for the queen, he was also criticized by Tai Yuanjun. Back at the palace, the king comforted the queen and told her not to think of his father. But the queen said the king of the country is you, not your father. The king was enlightened and agreed to the queen's suggestion. Opposition to Tai Yuanjun is building up in the palace. Tianchong found Li Darun. Li Darun told him that Zhao Dafei and Tai Yuanjun are now on a collision course. They could form an alliance with Zhao Dafei. A few days later, Tianchong disguised himself as a guard and went to see Zhao Dafei. He promised Zhao Dafei a real regency. The two of them hit it off right away. Then Tianchong went to see other ministers in the court. Due to Tai Yuanjun's domineering behavior, there are a lot of people in the court who dare not speak out. Tianchong seized this opportunity to gain support. Tai Yuanjun was also on the move. He found Tianchong's stronghold. He killed all of Tianchong's men. Just as they were about to be taken away, the king's pardon arrived. He wants to pardon Tianchong's men. For this reason, Tai Yuanjun rushed to the palace immediately. All the ministers were there and so was Tianchong. It was a meeting without informing Tai Yuanjun. At the urging of the queen, Zhao Dafei and the ministers, the king issued a pardon. Tai Yuanjun asked the king why he hadn't informed him. The king said he had forgotten to do so. Tai Yuanjun looked at his ministers. Their eyes were averted. He immediately realized that this was a premeditated plan. Zhao Dafei said that the king had decided to give Tianchong the position of training supervisor at the request of the ministers. Tai Yuanjun looked at Tianchong. He lost this round. But for both Tianchong and Tai Yuanjun, the real battle has just begun. After leaving the court, Tai Yuanjun approached the king and asked him to withdraw his order. But how can a country's army go back on its word? The king told Tai Yuanjun that he could decide the government himself. Tai Yuanjun was not in a hurry. He knew how to handle his son. Then he spoke as a father, scolding his son for his failure as a king. The country could be buried in his hands. The king, who was already weak, became disoriented. At that moment, Tai Yuanjun turned to leave. The king chased after him and jumped underneath Tai Yuanjun to apologize. All this was heard by the queen outside. They needed a more powerful way to get the king away from Tai Yuanjun. Relying on her position as queen, she kept whispering in the king's ear, so that the cowardly king began to resent the tyranny of the Tai Yuanjun. Then she recruited Tian Chong, who was kind to the king. Tian Chong told the king that the people were suffering under Tai Yuanjun's rule and needed you to save them. The king is still hesitant. He thinks he's too young to do it alone. The queen said she could ask Tian Chong to help you. After Tian Chong and the queen persuaded him, the king finally made up his mind. At the same time, Tai Yuanjun got the best fortune teller in Joseon to read his fortune. He thinks he'll be in charge for 10 years. But for Tai Yuanjun, he wanted more than just 10 years. In order to prolong his reign, he began to fight his rivals. The first one, of course, was Zhao Dafei. Holding evidence of Zhao Dafei's ruthlessness in previous political battles, he forced Zhao Dafei to abolish his rule from the curtain. Zhao Dafei was furious. He could be exploited by Tian Chong. He met with Zhao Dafei to discuss the removal of Tai Yuanjun from power, together with some of the courtiers he had previously enlisted. Tian Chong thought it was time to make a move. They decided to call an impromptu meeting the next day, without informing Tai Yuanjun, to impeach him directly to the king. At that moment, Tai Yuanjun came to see the king. The queen was afraid that the weak king might not be able to resist the pressure to speak out. She held the king's hand and made him reject Tai Yuanjun's request. Tai Yuanjun, who had never been rejected by a king before, felt something was wrong. He staggered away. The palace was on fire in the middle of the night. The queen took refuge. The king was at a loss. He was in the habit of letting Tai Yuanjun handle it, but Tai Yuanjun was waiting for this moment. The fire was extinguished after a long night. The next day, the court meeting went on as usual. As planned, the courtiers talked to the king about impeaching Tai Yuanjun, but the king was hesitant to make a decision. Tian Chong saw the problem and ordered the palace gates to be sealed, but the guards didn't move. Just then, Tai Yuanjun arrived. He asked why the court meeting was held without his knowledge. The officials were silent, but Tian Chong didn't give up. He replied sternly that today's meeting was called to remove the dictator from power. Tai Yuanjun smiled contemptuously. Zhao Dafei asked the king to remove Tai Yuanjun, but the king has left the government to Tai Yuanjun because he's not feeling well. It seems last night's fire has changed the king's mind. Tai Yuanjun punished the officials for not fighting the fire well. Tian Chong and the queen have lost the battle. After the meeting, as the two people who know each other best, Tai Yuanjun hoped that Tian Chong would stop fighting, to revitalize Joseon for the people and the king. Tian Chong was silent. His intention is not to fight for power but to reform the way the country is governed. At this point, he can only accept this offer, but the queen won't give up. She was fed up with Tai Yuanjun's bossy behavior. She approached Xiao Lian, who could predict the future of others, to help her strengthen the royal family. To Xiao Lian, the queen doesn't need help. She will be the ruler of Joseon one day. She advised the queen to wait for the right time. In the meantime, she should cultivate her body and mind. The queen did not take Xiao Lian's advice seriously. Then the queen summoned Li Darun. She offered Li Darun exclusive rights to import and export trade. She asked Li Darun to bet on herself. As Tian Chong's partner, Li Darun hesitated. But looking at the queen's resolute eyes, she suddenly realized that the queen was fighting for profit, for power, for herself, and in the end, she fights for the people. But Tian Chong fought selflessly for the people. As a person, she admired Tian Chong. As a businesswoman, she needed to make an alliance with the queen. Soon after, due to the Tai Yuanjun's policy of locking up the country, the French fleet started to attack the Joseon harbor. Tai Yuanjun asked Tian Chong to help the general to stop the foreigners. Tian Chong said the foreigners could be stopped, but the advanced system could not be stopped. Tai Yuanjun was not convinced. Tian Chong came to the harbor to present his strategy for retreating the enemy. The general scoffed at his status as a physiognomist. Tian Chong said, "I'll read your fortune for you." He said, "Although you look fierce, but you have a heart of compassion for the people. Besides, you are determined to die to stop the foreigners." After that, Tian Chong left. His men asked him if the general would use your plan. Tian Chong replied that he would. Sure enough, within a few days, the general used Tian Chong's plan to repel the French fleet. When he returned to the capital, Tian Chong received a reward from the Tai Yuanjun, a whole box of gold. Tian Chong wanted to refuse, but the king persuaded him to accept it. Standing outside the courtroom, the queen felt that Tian Chong was already on the side of Tai Yuanjun. Tian Chong returned to his residence. The Catholics who used to follow him have regrouped around him, in order to expose Tai Yuanjun to the west, and stop the policy of locking up the country. Tian Chong invited Tai Yuanjun to a dinner party. Tai Yuanjun was clearly prepared. He asked the fortune tellers present to read his fortune. The professor from the observatory said that Tai Yuanjun's power would last forever. Taoist Shan's judgment is still the same. Tai Yuanjun's rule will last only 10 years. Then came Tian Chong. Tian Chong said he wanted to calculate the fate of the country, and the fate he calculated was the end of the country. He told Tai Yuanjun that you had 10 years to rule. If you don't reform the country in these 10 years, the country will be ruined. This infuriated Tai Yuanjun. He's always had a policy of locking up the country, but Tian Chong is always pushing him to open up. As the most powerful man in Joseon, he doesn't need to be told what to do. The dinner ended badly. Tian Chong was doomed to failure. Tai Yuanjun feared that Tian Chong would use foreigners to threaten his rule. He started a full-scale investigation. The next day he had his men arrest all the Catholics. Tianchong approached Tai Yuanjun to discuss the matter. Tai Yuanjun handed him a secret letter he found on the Catholics. The message was a request for Russia to enter Korea. Along with the secret letter was a gold brick that was given to Tianchong at the time. Tai Yuanjun gave Tianchong a final warning. If he continues to have contact with the foreigners, he and Xiao Lian would be beheaded. The relationship between Tianchong and Tai Yuanjun was completely broken. The queen was the mastermind behind all this. It was the queen who asked Li Daran to give the religious people secret letters and gold bricks. The purpose was to break the relationship between Tianchong and Tai Yuanjun. Tianchong went to his master. The master told him that he can't do anything about it. Tai Yuanjun's 10 years will never change. But Tianchong wants to change his fate. He doesn't want Joseon to lose these 10 precious years. He decided to assassinate Tai Yuanjun. He buried the land in Russia. If the assassination fails, he'll let his men escape to Russia with Xiao Lian. He went to Tai Yuanjun's dinner party alone, pretending to be angry. He spilled wine on the kodo. The kodo was planted in advance. It was filled with a mixture of saltpeter. It explodes when it hits water. After all this, Tianchong left. On his way out, he saw 2 girls going in. Tianchong hesitated. At the moment before the explosion, he returned to the banquet hall. He threw the kodo to the side to protect the 2 girls. Tai Yuanjun was injured. He wouldn't let Tianchong go again. He asked the soldiers to drag Tianchong to the court and hang him in front of the city gate. Tianchong's men didn't run away because the assassination failed. Before the execution, they robbed the court and saved Tianchong. But Tianchong still didn't want to go. He sent his men on a ship to Russia. He wanted to finish the job with the Tai Yuanjun. Tianchong sneaked into Tai Yuanjun's house at night. Tai Yuanjun waited for him calmly. When Tianchong was about to shoot, Tai Yuanjun told his men to take Xiao Lian with them. Tai Yuanjun promised to give them a way out. Between his favorite woman and his favorite country, Tianchong chose the woman. But as soon as he left the house, he was chased by Tai Yuanjun. Tianchong was shot and fell to the ground. Xiao Lian was rescued by the queen's guards. Tai Yuanjun hugged Tianchong in his arms, thinking about this journey, from partners to rivals, and now he's killed him. He kept saying sorry. At the peak of power, he was left alone. Tianchong's partner and Xiao Lian escaped to Russia. They lived as equals in their own neighborhood. Late one night, Tianchong miraculously appeared at Xiao Lian's side. This is the end of the movie. If you're interested, please like and follow us. See you next time.